welcome to the third episode of the Girl Log Off podcast. I am your host Katie, and in this episode I will be talking about the morning shed trend. Now, this trend may not affect women's mental health as such, but I guess some of its effects may affect someone's mental health to some extent. This is a trend that has been around for quite a while now and is a skincare trend where people will apply several layers of skincare and beauty products before they go to bed and then dramatically remove them in the morning, receiving a dewy and glowy skin look. This routine includes things like masks, oils, patches, heatless curls, and it is intended to save time on your morning routine by doing it all the night before, with the motto, the uglier you go to bed, the hotter you wake up. I mean, some people may even go to the extent of wearing lip stains, mouth tape, no idea how they work when paired together, and even chin straps, which I personally think is a little far-fetched, but whatever works for them is great. Now, let's look into this routine in more detail. First is skincare, which is a main feature of this trend. From watching several videos on this trend, I have noticed that people use sheet masks, under eye patches, lip masks, serums, and face creams. At first, I was like, other than maybe the serums and face creams, surely these people should not be layering this many products overnight. But recently, while I've been browsing in shops, I have noticed that brands are now advertising and selling overnight masks, so it seems that this routine is working in their favour for marketing. Next, the thing that is often paired with them is heatless curls, which are covered by silk bonnets. Now, there are several different types of heatless curls. The most common one I've seen is the standard heatless curl product that is easily purchasable from shops. But more recently, I have seen that people have been using bed socks known as the sock method to achieve a better curl and it gives like a blowout look. However, I have seen that these take up 3 silk bonnets to cover, which is kind of insane, but the results are definitely worth it. I have also seen that people also apply hair masks to their hair when they aren't using hitless curls, which is most likely unhealthy for your hair and kind of defeats the purpose of the whole routine because you'll have to wash your hair in the morning when it is more effort than what the routine's supposed to be. The purpose of the routine is so you have less work to do in the morning. And finally, I've also seen accessories like chin straps, eye patches, and even face and mouth tape, which, to be honest, I find is the craziest part. But if it works for them, it works for them. I can understand the eye patches and the mouth tape because I personally use an eye patch as it helps me sleep, especially in the summer mornings, because the sun shining in my room I do not like at all. And maybe some mouth tape because I've heard that it does stop snoring and is meant to help your jawline. It does make me think that sometimes this trend might just be for show, because this cannot be a comfortable way to sleep. But to those that do partake in this routine, I hold my hands out to them for their dedication because I know I wouldn't be able to sleep in all that. I also read in a Glamour article that defends this trend. While there are obviously plenty of people with low maintenance routines who don't judge anyone for living differently, comparing oneself to other women in particular feels kinda gross. This, not like other girls' rhetoric, perpetuates the notion that women's interests are inherently superficial and frivolous and trivial. That as a woman, being high maintenance is a bad thing while cool girls roll out of bed and head out the door. Which I feel like spoke levels about the society that we live in. People have and always will still judge each other on whatever someone else does. Is it jealousy that they maybe don't put as much effort in as them? Or is it simply judging for the sake of judging? I feel like skincare routine wise, we have to do whatever we have to do that works for our skin. Everyone's skin is different and needs different products in order to stay healthy. So if a low maintenance routine works for you, then grand. But if a high maintenance routine is what you've ultimately found yourself having to do, then that is obviously also fine. I feel like it is only right to talk about the concerns and skepticism around this trend. First off, some products may be ineffective for these overnight routines, as they may not be designed for overnight use and may stop the skin from naturally regenerating. However, like I said before, brands are now introducing products that are made for overnight use, which is great, especially if the ingredients in the previous products weren't necessarily good for overnight use. Next, this trend I think can possibly lead to unrealistic expectations, as this routine can be time consuming, expensive, and can add pressure to people who conform to unrealistic beauty standards, which we talk about in the next episode. And maybe people tried this trend thinking that their skin will look the way the influencers do when they use it and are upset when they don't receive the results that they are expecting. And going back to the talk of sleep, if this routine does affect the way that some may sleep, and if they haven't slept well and are doing this routine rather frequently, maybe not every night, but some nights a week, then it may start affect their mood a lot, which will ultimately affect their mental health, as they will feel groggy, tired, and have low energy levels. Now, let's get into the interviews. First, we have skincare expert Carly Musler.
My name's Carly, and my career started in the beauty industry. And although it still remains there, it's definitely evolved a lot. So after school, I went to college to do a beauty therapy and hairdressing qualification. And at level 3, we were able to do media makeup, which meant we could do makeup for TV, theatre, shoots, runway, etc. And that's where I discovered my love for makeup. So I worked for ITV, MTV, freelanced bridal, and I also did makeup for a lot of editorials. One is Being Suitcase magazine, and that was a Clueless shoot, and that was really fun. And then I moved to Scotland with my partner in 2008 and decided to start a YouTube channel. And that's kind of where my career began. So I was amongst one of the first to create beauty content online. In the UK, there was a very small amount of us. There was people like Pixie Woo. There was Lauren Luke, who's also from the Northeast. So there was it was quite niche back then. And from YouTube, I then progressed on to blogging. So that's blogging came in. It became popular around 2009-10. So during this period, I won a Johnson & Johnson Journalism Award, and that's an annual event, and it has the likes of Stylist magazine, Cosmopolitan, and I won Best Beauty Blog for the UK, and that was for the professional editorial writing and photography, etc. And this led me then to want to understand the science behind the cosmetics that I kept talking about. So I would talk about ingredients, but I didn't feel like I had the real scientific knowledge. You need to hear so much stuff like on a molecular level. And I'd think to myself, like, what does that exactly mean? How are we getting to the molecular level? What do you mean it's targeting DNA? So all these questions that I had, I thought the only way I'm going to be able to provide this professionally is if I do a degree. So I went to the University of Sunderland and I did a bachelor's in cosmetic science. And during this time, the pandemic happened and I started TikTok, and I gained followers quickly working with brands, explaining the science behind the products, etc., in an easy and kind of transparent way. So that's where I've got to, and then I'm kind of evolving a little bit more into the marketing side. So I'm really interested in the language that's used within the marketing of beauty products.
When did you first hear about the morning shed trend, and what were your first thoughts on it?
So, like most skincare trends, I think it was first heard on social media, and well, where I first came across it. And when I first looked at it, I thought my very first thought was it's consumerism, it's over excessive. Is it necessary? And then my thoughts pivoted a little bit to maybe it's something more psychological. So it's quite extensive, but I think it's seen more as a ritual and something that provides calm to the nervous system. And I know, many of us now compared to years ago, there's excessive amounts of information that we're given daily, whether we want it or not. We come across so much information continuously during the day that we don't get that moment of kind of calm. And I think this forces moments of slow intention. And it's also some of it saves time for the morning for some people, because I've noticed that they also put the lip liner on the nighttime as well. I've seen some people do that. So I think part of it is also to maybe save time the next day.
Yeah, I think at first I was like, I mean, I've never tried it. And I don't think I'm not very much into skincare. Like, I've probably got the simplest routine ever.
Which isn't a
So
bad thing, to be honest.
I think, but then if for someone that is probably, I'm very low maintenance. If I was high maintenance, I would probably take part in the trend.
Yeah. It is also a bit of a community type thing where people can join in on and feel like they're also getting involved. But yeah, if you're not someone who's really interested in a skincare routine or interested in doing something quite extensive like that, then it's not necessary. It's not. I think that's why it's more of a psychological thing than it is purely the just on the outcome. Because if it was just on the outcome, I don't know if it would have reached as many people as it has.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff is probably not meant to stay on for as long.
Yeah, I agree.
Could layering several products like face masks, etc., like eye masks, be good to be left on overnight, or is it doing more good than bad?
Again, it's the products. I think if it's excessive layers of actives, fragrance, um, then probably not. It's probably not a great idea to do that. Irritation potential's increased when you do that. So if you're layering lots of products, there is a good chance that you're going to get more irritation. It's just a probability thing. So if you're layering things like occlusives, so occlusives is something that basically forms a barrier on the skin, um, then those type of things are actually beneficial. So a lot of the moisture is lost from the skin during the night. It happens to everyone. It's just a natural process. It's called transepidermal water loss, and it's TEWL for short, which is TOOL. So everyone's skin experiences TOOL, and it's just there's different rates in which different times of day and different environments at which this evaporation happens, more so. So at night we can experience a lot more water loss from the skin. So having these layering products can be beneficial, but if it's a lot of perfumed or a lot of oily products, say, or a lot of actives, then it's probably not a good idea.
Would you say that there are any products that are perhaps better for overnight use over the products that are commonly used in this routine?
It's very difficult to make black and white recommendations when I haven't seen a person face to face, so I couldn't say that this product is definitely going to be better because it might not be good for some people, it might be great for
Yeah.
others. So demographic is important here. So for example, I'm in my 40s and I would recommend retinol products for people overnight in those who are 30s plus. Someone in their 20s and teens, they don't necessarily need that, so I wouldn't be recommending retinol products to be left on overnight. So that's why it depends. If someone has concerns about acne, then I probably wouldn't recommend layering many creams or using too many actives, as this can also lead to irritation. So it's it's all dependent on your own skin type, and this is why trends, in a sense, to put not all, but some trends annoy me because it's basing everyone on having the same skin when that's just impossible.
Yeah, because everyone has like different. Some people have more oily skin than others. Some people have
Mhm.
more dry skin.
Yeah, that's why, trends, they're not good for everyone.
If someone wants to wake up with more hydrated skin, like this trend shows, what could they use that may be simpler and more beneficial?
Always say keep it simple. So cleanse and serum or retinol, then moisturize with a moisturizer that contains ingredients such as glycerin, or the popular one is hyaluronic acid. And then depending on the skin, layering with an occlusive. So there's a few different ones you can get. The one that I loved was by Ren, and it was called the overnight treatment mask, I believe, something like that. And basically it's it's balmy, so it's quite thick, but then if you rub it between your hands, it goes thinner, so it shears out. and that provides a really good barrier to prevent the moisture loss. Kiehl's, since that brand doesn't exist anymore, Kiehl's does one, and the texture is kind of like Vaseline. So if you're keeping your skin hydrated, you want to reduce moisture loss. That's why putting that final layer on is good. But if you don't want to do that, because again, not everyone wants to feel that way, not everyone, sensorily it can feel a little bit heavy on the skin, or it can feel, but some people experience it as claustrophobic. So just simply cleanse your product, and then such as a serum, might be active retinol, and then moisturize.
Could this trend possibly be okay to partake in if it was done less regularly? So say once or twice a week rather than every day.
If they're using something that's quite gentle, then I don't see why it would be a huge problem. If they're using lots of products, layering loads of different things, because some overnight masks might be more advanced. Some can contain less fragrance or less irritating ingredients. So it depends on the products that you're using to how frequently that I would probably do it during the week. So I see a lot of these masks that you leave on contain fragrance, whereas there's one that I used and it's quite popular at the moment. It's like they call it a collagen one. Essentially, it's a gel that you put on as your final step, and then you can peel it off in the morning. Whereas there's others where it's almost like a physical mask that sits on the skin. Them ones can often contain a lot of fragrance, so they're not ideal. Some people might find it's too irritating to do that every single night, so they might do it once a week or twice a week. Again, maybe look into the ingredients on the back of your products before using them, and see if there's a lot of the same ingredients, or if there's a lot of, for example, niacinamide. Some people will they'll just go crazy with this niacinamide products. They'll have niacinamide wash, then the serum, then the this, then the that, and everything's got the same active in, and it can just be too much for the skin. So I would have a look at that basically. And also, the problem is with layering so many products that people are doing, and they do it, nearly every night. If you have a reaction, how do you work out what's caused it? Some products can cause a reaction immediately. Some, they might take days later to show. So if the ones that have took maybe 2-3 days to appear, you don't know if that's from a product that you put on last night or the night before or the night before that.
I feel like the collagen masks, I have seen them all over, and they seem to be like the more common ones to be used within like this trend.
There's a couple, isn't there? There's some that they almost dissolve onto the skin. There's some that are masks where where it's got the eyes cut out. So there's very different types of masks. The ones that I've seen for this morning shed, someone actually had a mask on their face, and I thought, I don't know how you've slept in that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes they might have that actually slept in it, or they're just saying they have. How can people tell the difference between like healthy overnight hydration and signs that they're overdoing it?
So hydration is, you'll be able to tell from your skin. It looks dewy, it feels a little bit kind of tacky to touch, and it looks like lines look less reduced, so the skin looks more plump to the surface. So when it's like that, you have hydrated skin. You can't really overdo hydration, but you can get signs of irritation. That's when you're overdoing it, I would say, if you've got signs of irritation. So a big telltale sign is a negative change in the skin, a rash. This could be sometimes red, itchy, it might have small spots. I know personally when my skin isn't happy, if I've used a product that it doesn't like, one of them is Weleda, which is strange because my skin used to love skin food. Now it really doesn't get on with it. So whenever I've used that, I get perioral dermatitis, and it comes around the sides of my nose, my mouth, and my chin. And it starts off feeling quite itchy, and then I see this red area in its spot. So you will get telltale signs if you are overdoing it, whether it's the appearance of the skin or whether it's the feeling.
How can trends like this misrepresent and oversimplify how the skin works?
I guess as I was saying, it's the complication that everyone assumes that it's okay for them, that it's for every skin type, and it's not the case at all. So if one person's skin can tolerate an ingredient, it doesn't mean the other person's can. Some people can tolerate many different ingredients. They get no signs of any issues. Um, Someone else might have a major reaction.
Following on quite nicely from that question, what concerns do you have about people self-prescribing routines based on what they see on TikTok and Instagram?
So skincare is really personal, and I think that I always recommend people spend time monitoring their own skin. I mean, it's very easy to get influenced. I mean, I sit here, have created content for years and years and years on skincare, and I understand like influencer content and how it can be good to constantly promote. The problem is people are assuming that a product that someone's promoting as being great will also be great for them, and they're not spending the time looking at their own skin. So if they're seeing someone talking about this product that has salicylic acid, but they don't have any blemishes at all. In fact, they have a bit of dry skin. They don't need that product, you know, but they'll get it maybe thinking, oh, I'll get that too. I'll try that. They'll try it, and then it might exasperate a problem that they have with their skin already. Maybe it causes even more dryness, irritation, and then that leads to other things. So I would say spend time looking at your own skin, try one thing at a time, avoid trends, and keep a note, whether that's mental or physical, of any changes that you see in your skin, things that didn't react well, or things you might have used a product and think, oh, this is the best my skin's ever been. If it is, you stick with that. Don't then think, right, I'm going to jump on another trend, or I'm going to start trying another product now. That's the issue that I see with a lot of people who come to me and say, oh, I've got this, I've got that. And I'm like, which products have you been using? Oh, loads. Like, well, how do we identify the problem? You've got to strip it back to a really simple routine, add one thing at a time. Something might agree with your loads, keep using it. If it doesn't, right, put that to one side. You can't use that for a while. You might come back to it a little bit down the line, fine again, that your skin's not happy with it. Then you know absolutely don't use that product or that ingredient if you think it's an ingredients thing. Yeah, that I think that's the main thing, is not to follow trends, is looking after your own skin. Know your own skin inside out. There's people who probably know loads about other things and other products and this and that and the other, but if I'd asked them about their own skin, they wouldn't be able to answer it. So really like look into your own skincare, your own skin, how it is. Does it feel dry in some areas? Is it feeling oily at certain points of the day? Do you break out at certain times of the month? Are there certain ingredients that are causing any issues that you think might possibly, you know, be doing it? So
How can trends like the morning shed affect how people's expectations are of how they should look when they first wake up?
I suppose they might have the same expectations as the influencer that they're watching. So a lot of the time they're going to show a perfect result or excellent finish, even if it hasn't been the case. They might, as you say, as you said before, are they actually wearing the mask the full night? They might not be. They might just, to make it assume as if they were, they may just be putting it on for the last, few minutes of the video or whatever, just so they can edit in and make it look like that. Um, but also there's lots of realistic failed attempts too. So if you feel like you're watching a trend and you're only seeing a real polished side, have a look through the feed, see if there's any other videos on it, and you might get a different result. You might see that, oh, actually it didn't work for that person, or that's how they look. They had a failed attempt. say this, say that. And it's hard because there is a lot of perfectionism now, and a lot of what people see, they're comparing themselves to online. So they might have the expectation of waking up and having this flawless, glassy skin. I don't know. It can be difficult based on how it's possibly affecting people psychologically.
Can obsessing over the glossy, glowy skin look contribute to compulsive product use or routine anxiety?
Yeah, so the truth is with glass skin, so it can only last so long during the day because the environment and other factors means that the skin loses the hydration, as I mentioned. So unless you are reapplying product many times, your skin, it won't look like glass for long. So you might wake up, take the mask off, and it's that real radiant glow to the skin, but that won't stay like that for the full day because there's a little residue that's left on the skin, or it's the hydration that is maintained within the skin surface overnight while it's had the barrier on. But then during the day, it's being lost unless more product is being put on. And not many people realize that, so they're expecting a long-term result. Well, the trend, the glassy skin trend, I think came from Korea, and the kind of illusion was that the skin was very, very flawless, just no pores in sight, no blemishes. The skin is all one tone. The skin has no texture. It does simply look like glass. It's smooth. It's like reflects light, etc. But it's not realistic. That kind of look there is very short term, again, unless you are continuously keeping on top of that during the day. So the issue with all of this really is perfectionism, because we now want to wake up looking perfect, and aiming for very healthy and hydrated skin is a great thing, but being obsessive is, probably concerning. And as I say, you can keep applying product during the day, but it's not going to be a long-lasting result unless you've got products that contain pearlized pigments in, or lots of oils. You can get a kind of semi-sheen finish with products that contain oils, but who wants to keep putting that on during the day? It's
Yeah.
difficult enough trying to get, SPF on during the day. If you're wearing makeup, you're not really going to get that glassy skin look constantly during the day if you're having to put skincare on top of your makeup.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like they'll do the routine and then they'll put makeup on top of it, which probably like hides it a little bit, so it makes the whole routine a little bit pointless.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's a psychological thing. I think a lot of people do it for the routine, the calm, the my moment situation. And that's why I can't get mad at like every trend, because for some people it's just for them to have a bit of time to themselves.
How can viewers protect their mental well-being when consuming beauty content that presents filtered or exaggerated results?
So you know what, this is actually a really interesting one because it's extremely difficult, especially like with the advancement of AI. And I've just written an article on this about how this is affecting people psychologically, looking at things that they might assume is real, but it's not. It's AI, because it's become like insanely realistic now, to the point where even I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, that's not you. You're a man. Like it's unbelievable. I would approach content with questions. So I'm quite skeptical anyways. I don't know if it's because I've been within the industry or what, but I always ask questions. Would this work for my skin? So I can still be influenced in skincare. I love a gimmicky product. I love packaging. So I can definitely be influenced. However, I always say to myself, one, do I need it? And is this going to be good for my skin? So check content for the same product on, go through the feed. Are the results similar, or does this look extremely exaggerated? You'll see people that they claim that, oh, this is what my skin, I look at this is what it's doing, and you can see that it's a filter. And you might look at other people's videos and you'll see they've got a nice result, but it's not this completely flawless. Or they might say this is done. I know this is not the same topic when we're coming to skincare, but they might use a mascara and say, look how long my lashes are now. And then you think, that's a bit dramatic. You'll look at other people's videos and you'll see maybe a more realistic take. So do a comparison check. What are the results like on other people's videos? Am I being sold something that I actually need? So be super critical, take the information on about the product and then do some further research, because at the end of the day, it's your money and your skin, so you have to be protective over it.
So what do trends like this say about like our broader relationship with skin and self-image?
I think there's many things. So there's a playful side to trends, and in general, people want to be experimental, and they want to test out new things and almost be their own scientist at home. But also you've got the marketing, which is down to an abundance of products and constant new releases. I get overwhelmed by the amount of new things that come out constantly. And I don't know how some people's parents keep up, because we've now entered an era where young people in particular are expecting to purchase like 20 odd pound skincare, and it's incredible, because some of these kids are primary school age, some of them are very early teens, and each product that's marketed and that comes out, obviously it goes on to their parents to buy them, and so there's a lot of pressure now, which trends do create a lot of pressure, which then it goes to the kids, I guess, the kids, and it's hard for the kids whose parents can't afford it. So I always think about that as well. So
Yeah.
there's kids who can't get involved in the whole say, oh, I've got a road blush. Like, that's nuts. They've got collections of all of these really expensive skincare, makeup brands, like just in a row in their room. So I think that side of things, it can create a lot of comparison pressure, whether that's in society and amongst friends, etc. But I do also like the whole, it has created a community at the same time, and there's a lot more people now are dedicated to skincare and wanting to understand more about the skin and ingredients, and they want to spend more time on themselves, making the skin look the best it can.
Yeah, I feel like social media is like the biggest place for comparison culture. I feel like everyone is comparing each other to themselves, to influencers, to the other people that they see that aren't necessarily influencers, they're just on TikTok.
I think what people need to remember is no one's going to post the version of them when they're waking up first thing on a morning and the hair's all over, like, they're barely put together at all. No one's going to post that, because that's not necessarily like aspiring or entertaining. There's different pillars, so it doesn't really fall into any of them. However, it can be entertaining if it's like the kind of content where it is self-deprecating in a, like, if it's comical, you know.
Yeah.
Other than that, if it's just everyday kind of general stuff, you don't tend to post that. So people are only posting the best parts. 90% of the time, it might not look like that for them. But if they're only posting the 10% good times every single time, you're going to assume their whole life is like that. You know, you're going to assume that they always have good skin days, they always have good hair days.
That's all from Carly. Next, I spoke to influencer Lexa Smith to see what her take on the trend is. Lexa is a beauty and self-care creator, as well as a full-time nurse. She explained, I am passionate about self-care and feeling my best. I recently graduated from university and I actually began my social media journey while I was in nursing school. After asking her where she first discovered this trend, she said, I first discovered moan and shed routines through some of my favourite creators on TikTok and Instagram Reels. A lot of videos had an ASMR element, which made them so satisfying to watch, and the results were honestly addictive. She explained that she found this trend extremely satisfying right away. I loved the anticipation and the reveal. I also knew it was a pretty involved routine that required a lot of products, so I understood that it was not necessarily realistic for everyone. Still, I thought it was such a fun nighttime ritual that built on things like overnight curls and added skincare components. I asked her what made her start taking part in this trend. She responded, I started participating in it once I started working full time. I quickly realised I did not have much time in the mornings to get ready. The morning shed became an easy, efficient way to feel more confident when I was rushing out the door early. She said that my version of the trend starts with washing my face with a cleanser. Then I apply an overnight mask, usually one of the gel type masks, that dries down overnight because it is more convenient and less sticky. I find that it helps seal my serums and leaves my skin looking really plump in the morning. After that, I apply an overnight lip tint, usually one that peels off in the morning. Then I move to my overnight curls. I like to use big velvet rollers on top of my head, usually one or two, and I wear a satin bonnet to keep everything in place while I sleep. As much as I wish I could do it every day, I do not find it realistic. I usually do it once a week, especially when I start to feel a little less confident and want to wake up feeling my absolute best. It is usually on a night when I know I have plans or work the next day and have a bit of extra time to prepare. She explained the process of how she found the method that worked for her. Because there are so many videos on this topic, it did not take me very long to find a routine that worked for me. I took inspiration from different creators and adapted it using products I already had. The only part that took more trial and error was the overnight curls, because they can easily look silly if they are not applied properly or if they fall out overnight. I asked her if she uses this routine more for the results she receives or more as a ritual or mental reset. And she said, although I really do love the results, I would say it's more of a mental self-care ritual for me. It boosts my confidence and makes me feel I am investing in myself. The beauty aspect is great, but the ritual itself is what makes it feel special. When I asked how this trend may work for other people, she responded, I definitely think it needs to be customised based on both skin type and hair texture. For example, I do not personally have acne prone skin, so I tend to reach for collagen focused and skin barrier supportive products. That being said, I do not think the same approach would work for someone with very sensitive or breakout prone skin. The same goes for hair. Someone with curly hair may benefit more from a protective updo or a scrunchie method rather than heatless curl rods. I asked her if she feels any pressure to post this sort of content and she explained, not really. With all my content, I do not try to chase a perfect aesthetic. I do not mind showing when I look tired, when my hair is messy, or when my room is a little chaotic. So when it comes to my morning shed content, I am completely okay with sharing results that are not perfect. I think it also creates an opportunity to laugh about it, learn from it, and try again. And that's all from this episode. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next episode where I talk about body image.